Welcome to the Spiro Hangout, where we talk all things spearfishing, freediving and foraging. We're three guys from Devon in the UK who are excited to share some of the learnings from our spearfishing journey with you over the coming episodes. We bring in some special guests along the way to help spread some in-depth Spiro knowledge from some of the most experienced people in the scene.
Hello, boys. How are we?
Hey, buddy, you right?
Yeah, very good. How are you?
How's it going?
Awesome. So, well, this is episode 8 of the Spiro Hangout podcast. Quest 8 episodes already.
Where's it gone?
It's actually flown here. Like, it doesn't feel like it's gone that fast, but it really has.
That's 8 weeks. I can remember still sitting and doing the bloody first episode with you guys. But no, it's good to it's good to hear all the feedback.
It's got a little bit better, hasn't it, over the weeks? I've stopped saying quite so many times. Editing has become a little bit easier.
Just because of the fact that I don't do any editing, so
we're getting a little bit better at flowing and not talking over each other as well, aren't we? Which is probably good because
Richard
I'm sure
drinking.
the listeners. Yeah, yeah, right. I got pissed once on one episode, and I'm now
never forget
known
it.
as the Alki.
You will never forget it.
You'll never let me forget, more like it.
Exactly. So what's been happening this week? First of all, we were meant to have a guest this week. Unfortunately, last minute they had to cancel. But that means that this week you just get us. So yeah, what's been happening this week? Ben, Richard, go first.
I've not been up to much, mate. Just trying to get stuff sorted for Cornwall, trying to get work wrapped up. I got an ear infection because you lot are talking about fucking ear infections so much that I've actually managed to catch one off you.
Pass it on over the airwaves.
So I've actually got one now, but I'm on the tail end of it, on some antibiotics, and just not been diving really. I had a couple of shit dives over last weekend. Managed to find the thick algae bloom when I come back in from fishing off the boat with my brother, and it was just so thick, man. Like the first meat of the water was just like soup.
Really?
But in the morning prior to that, Ben went out, didn't you, mate? And it was literally crystal clear. I could see the bottom. I could see the bottom from the boat.
It was gorgeous. Actually, I accidentally bumped into you, didn't I, that morning?
He was being a sneaky little prawn, as you say.
I thought I'll get away with this. I'll get some points on the board, start point. I won't tell anybody until they go up there. And who do I see as I'm driving down?
You want to see his face. You want to see his face, Anthony. When he saw me, he thought, "Oh no,
busted."
He's like, "What are you doing here?" I'm getting picked up to go fishing. What are you doing here?
And there I was thinking that the other week you said that your boating secret spot was really secret.
Oh man, it was tragic as well. No, that wasn't the spot, but it was tragic as well. But I went in that afternoon, as I was saying, literally Ben had crystal clear water, so you went in. I thought, it's gonna be perfect later on. Yeah, and then I jump in later on. I've got about a 2-foot swell and thick green soup on top.
Did tide change?
Yeah, the high tide came in, brought all the algae bloom with it.
Oh, okay.
So
you had to change direction.
Yeah, and funny enough, like on the high tide of that spot, normally it's tons of mullet, isn't there?
Yeah.
Didn't see one. Literally, that thick algae bloom, just they don't like it, I don't think.
Yeah, we dropped over there yesterday afternoon, didn't we, Anthony? The same spot. And I think it was high tide, slightly smaller tides. And it was a little bit green, but it certainly wasn't as bad as you described there, Richard. So it's crazy how quickly it comes and goes. It's just pot luck, I guess. And unusual for this time of year.
Yeah. Well, whenever you get the hot weather, that's an unusual. It does tend to bloom up a bit. But
yeah,
I think when you get like the blooms, I mean, this is just hazarding guess here. When you get the blooms that come in later on in the year, I don't think they stick around as long as like the May bloom,
right?
Because obviously the water's gone from so cold to a lot warmer.
Yeah,
it takes a long time for that burn off, so to speak, or dissipate, or whatever it does. I don't know. But it does look a little bit better already, and that's only a matter of a few days.
The water yesterday afternoon was definitely it wasn't like the dive that we went on last week where it was brown silt from the
Mm.
wind that we had. It was like, yeah, it was green algae or leftover green algae. It was definitely greener water, not brown.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it was.
Yeah.
What's up with your ears?
I got an ear infection. I think I got the ear infection from the last competition that we did. So
Oh,
I got a
no.
bit. I got some trapped water in my middle ear,
Yeah.
and I was trying to get it out for like days and days, and I just couldn't get it out. And I said to the wife at the time, I thought, oh, I hope it doesn't lead to infection. Funny enough, it did. My body fought it off most of it. Still a little bit sore, so I went to the doctor. He started probing my ears, and today it's agony. But on some antibiotics now, so it should be all right. But I'm going to Cornwall this weekend, so just wanted to get it sorted, really.
Hey,
Did I break up there?
hey. Sorry. It's an old dad's joke that I'm sure a few people will get, but anything to talk about hearing or ears, just sit there and say, "Hey."
That's all.
And he's walked out now. He's just completely left us.
Cheers, Rich.
That's fine. It's just me
Nice
and Ben.
knowing
Bye,
you.
Rich.
Just letting the dog out, man.
Ben, what you been up to this week?
Yeah, well, as I say, I saw Rich down at Secret Spot and had a really nice dive. Not quite gin clear water, but it was a good 6 or 7 meters viz. Another really good one had a cuttlefish, red mullet, flounder. So nice mixed bag. It always feels a bit nice when you come back with a mixed bag, doesn't it? And red mullet is just absolutely delicious. So
how do you do your red mullet?
Well, I've done a couple of different ways actually. So the first one I made a kind of Italian sauce, like tomatoes, courgettes, a few herbs, that kind of stuff.
Nice.
And the second one, what did I do with that second one? Oh, I'll tell you what I did. I don't know if you've seen, is it Josh Nolan's book, The Whole Fish? He's some Aussie guy, I think, and he writes these really elaborate recipes. But on one of the pages, he shows you how to butterfly a fish. So I thought I would try that, given that it was a red mullet butterflied recipe. I didn't do anything else in the recipe. I'm not very good at following instructions from anybody, as my wife will attest to. But yeah, it was a nice way to have a fish in a slightly different way. It was a lot of faff, though. I probably won't do it again. I can't remember how I did it, but it's on my Instagram. So yeah, I can put a recipe.
Yeah,
on there.
Look really nice, man.
Yeah, it was delicious. So I've got one in the fridge from yesterday afternoon. So I look forward to taking that apart tomorrow. So the other cool thing was on that dive, I came across a conger eel swimming out in the open, which is a bit unusual. I didn't really feel like taking it. I was out there by myself, but
Why
yeah, I don't know. Are they quite nice to eat, aren't they? I've heard.
Yeah.
How big was it?
I don't know, what, 1.5 meters, something like that. Not
thick,
not huge. Yeah, like I don't know, that 4 inches, something like that. So not like one of the really big ones, but big enough. Anyway, what was quite cool is it lay down beside me. Like I put a video of that dogfish doing a similar thing. It just kind of went for a little rest beside me, and I stroked it, just like just chilling out. Just it's a bit weird, a bit surreal, and then it swam off. It's kind of cool. Unfortunately, as is always with the GoPros, it's sat a little bit high on my head, so all you can see is my hand like going up and down. It's a bit weird, and then this weird black shape moving off. But yeah, it's kind of cool. It's like these experiences that you have are just sometimes completely out of this world, aren't they? That's cool. Yeah, it was a really nice dive.
I'm glad to see that we now know why you catch fish during competitions, because the fish just aren't threatened by you. They just feel so relaxed around you. You give them a massage.
Yeah.
You might be onto something there. You might actually be onto something there, Anthony.
Ben's Fish Manicure and Pedicure Service.
The fish whisperer, they call me.
Talking about flounder, the one that you had.
Yeah.
When I went to that spot, I saw one from say distance, probably about 3-4 meters away, and it just started to sail on the sand. So I thought, right, okay, I won't shoot it straight away, let it get a bit closer first and try and get a clean shot on the head. As I go to get a clean shot, spooks, takes off. I then follow it as fast as I can. It knows I'm after it. So it dives straight into the sand, creates a huge sand cloud, and I can't see it. It's almost like a squid. I literally couldn't see it. I'm stabbing the sand repeatedly, trying to find it, running out of breath. I'm like, oh no. So I have to go to the top. By the time I regain my breath, the tide obviously has pushed me off a little bit and everything else, and the sand sailed, and I can't find this bloody fish anywhere. Yeah. So I never had a flounder ever do that to me. It's weird. You guys?
Not create a whole cloud of dust, but what I have seen is sole. Actually, was it yesterday afternoon we went, Anthony? There was quite a few like smaller sole there in a certain spot, and like I don't know, 20 centimeters or something like that. Not really takeable size. Yeah. You'd see them 1 minute, and then they'd shuffle along a little bit, and then they'd get really kind of do this like wave like motion, and then you'd look away and look back, and you just wouldn't be able to see them. And it just made me think, we must pass over so many flatfish. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, I've had a few flounder and plaice do it when I've spooked them. And sometimes once I've spooked them, either I know I'm going to take the shot or I don't. And then if I know I'm not going to take the shot, I just watch them.
Yeah.
And their ability to go into that sand, they do their little vibrate, what I say, W with their wings, and they are invisible. But apart from their really stupid eyes that stick out, like looking at you going, no, you can't see me now. And you're like, you're right fucking there, dickhead. Hello. Like, I'm going to move you on. I did it yesterday afternoon with a David Sole, the little baby ones, and a tiny little thornback ray. It must have only been 15, 20 centimeters.
I think I saw the same one, yeah.
Oh, it was so cute. And I sort of went down and just like touched its tail to say, oi, I can see you. You need more training. And he like swam along, did a little bit of a flit, and then I was like, I can still see you, dickhead. Like, they're so cute though. And the other thing that I saw yesterday was a load of little baby squid and really baby cuttlefish. They're so bloody cute. They're like the size of your thumbnail, and as soon as you get anywhere near them, and I was only bumping into them by accident, I didn't notice them because they're so small. And then like they just give these tiny little jets of black ink as they try swim away really fast. And it's just like, it's like Finding Nemo.
They were the size of your thumb. Would you say thumbnail?
Yeah.
But they measured 20 centimeters on your new ruler, right?
Well, yeah, that's because I've had to get a new ruler that measures my fish bigger so that people believe that I've bought.
People are really going to kick off. People are going to kick off when they think that you're actually bought a dodgy ruler. So you might want to explain the whole reasoning behind me taking the mickey, are you? In a polite manner.
So in a polite manner, there was a couple of red mullet that I'd posted that were rejected because obviously the size for a red mullet is 20 centimeters. They were 21 centimeters and 22 centimeters. In the photo, they look as though they're 18. However, they're definitely not because I measured them with my own hands and a ruler, obviously. But yeah, no. Hence the reason I've now made my own fishmonger's table with a stick-on ruler and tried to photograph them a little bit better now.
I did use my phone, and I think I sound like a bit of a knob, but I'll put it on anyway. I mean, I know what's new, but
I wasn't going to say anything.
So I'm currently loading up the car. I have my big black bucket where I stick my bags, my weights, my flags, my water, my lube. It all goes in together so that when stuff gets wet, it'll go all over the car. I've got a box of bits, my ear roll swim with tea tree oil. That's to keep my ears nice and safe, so I don't end up like I did a couple of weeks ago. I've got a couple of torches, and I've got my GoPro and my spare torch and GoPro handle is already attached to my float, ready to go. So as soon as I park up, I can get out there. So I'm going to load up the last couple of bits. I'm going to take a shotgun today, a 75, because Viz isn't expected to be that great. I'm going to tape my Bochat Pluma, and that'll just look after all the stuff. So let's get out there. I think from your faces that sound like a knob.
The thing is, everything you're saying sounds like a sexual innuendo. So I say definitely leave that in. Oh, we just got a little snippet from a beach dive that we did the other day.
Yeah, I don't think it gets much better than that, though. I don't. What do they get?
Well, it does, because then I turn up.
Right, kids, see you later. What's your catch? What should we get, kids?
What would you like to eat?
What would you like to eat?
Scallops!
What would you like?
Burger!
A burger? Where goes that in the sea?
A fish. What fish?
A bass. What would you like, Alex?
Crab.
A crab. Okay. What would I like? Scallops. There's no scallops where we're going.
Lobster.
Okay. So I
Or
can do.
cuttlefish.
Okay. Right. See you later. Anthony's just making his way down the beach. Excited to get in. I was a little bit delayed by talking to some old guy who told me a few spearfishing tales of 11-pound cod on this beach, would you believe? Anthony, say hello to the viewers, listeners.
Hello. Oh, I turned my torch on.
Thanks, mate, for checking that.
That's all right.
Already excited to get in?
Very. This looks better than...
It looks all right, doesn't it? It's a bit green. I got talking to some guy who was telling me about 11-pound cod he had from here.
Is that the chap in the blue robe?
Oh, did you have a chat with him as well?
That's why I'm 10 minutes late. No, nice chap.
What a lovely guy,
Yeah.
He said he had a anglerfish here as well, so
Christ.
yeah, pretty cool. I mean, I think it was quite a long time ago, mind.
Well, the water looks nice and calm, and I can see the bottom at least a metre in. So
Yeah, mate, I'm really excited to get in. I'm going to put this phone away now. Get cracking.
I've got to catch all the red mullet, considering mine have been disqualified. What did you get?
I got a red mullet.
You got another red mullet. Is that 6 points, is it? Or 7?
6 points, I think, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh, it's 6 points.
6 points for red mullet.
And did you get anything from yesterday afternoon to measure up on the new table?
I did.
Cool.
And I specifically said to the competition's runners, of which the name we shall not mention. But yeah, I said to them that I'll go and catch another one and show you how shit my photography skills really are, and I'll change the way that I photograph them. And yeah, so I got a 22.6, so 226 mil red mullet, and I now know that to the millimeter. And I now measure them with lasers.
Nice one. Did you get anything else?
Got a 96 mil lobster.
Cool.
And a 43 centimeter bass, which was
Nice.
stunning, really
Lovely.
nice. They're all in the fridge. But going back to your recipe for red mullet, I found the easiest way is kind of treat them a little bit like a fresh sardine.
Yeah.
Scale them, flour them, fry them. And that's it. The bones are damn near completely edible, including the spine.
Interesting.
Yeah, I wouldn't bother eating the head, but I mean, the rest of it, you can eat the whole fish, and it takes, 2 minutes per side to cook? It was really tasty.
I saw a recipe where they cook the innards as well. I haven't tried it. I've left the guts in from this one from yesterday afternoon. So might give that a go. They eat prawns, don't they? That's how they get their colouring and flavour. That's why they're so delicious.
I haven't gutted mine yet, so I'll definitely leave it because they've got really simple in like guts and insides.
Yeah, like weirdly small.
Very much so.
But I thought it was cool.
Yeah, they predate on prawns and crabs, don't they?
Yeah.
So, and just going back to leaving the innards in Portugal, it's quite a popular thing just to leave them in, just eat the whole fish with them inside.
Is it? With bones and everything?
Not with big fish, but like things like sardines and that sort of size. They would just cook the entire fish without even gutting it. So
Cool.
Very nice.
Well, I might give that a go.
Well, speaking of health problems earlier on, I've had frontal sinusitis for half of this week. And yeah, went out with Sugar Daddy to one of our favourite local spots and got in the water. So first of all, get in the boat, really, really happy. We're having a really good chat on the way to the spot. Get to the spot. He's getting ready. I'm getting ready. Put the weight belt on, mask, snorkel. Go to get my fins. They're in the fucking car.
Oh, no.
Like, dickhead. So luckily, Dave then went in and said, try my fins on. How his size 8 feet and his foot pockets will also fit my size 12 feet. He defies physics. But yeah, so went over and got in the water, did my breathe up. First dive within, my watch went down to 1.5 meters before I was in more pain in the front of my face than I've ever known. It was just immediate. And it actually follows on from me having a week of not being able to smell anything.
Oh,
COVID? So, no. Did COVID tests and did 4 or 5, all came back negative. So I think it was just like proper blockage. I felt healthily perfectly fine.
Yeah.
So it's really, really odd. But then I got a neti pot.
Yeah.
Which Rachel says is really, inverted commas, a hippie cool dude thing. I have no idea why. And yeah, tried it out the other night. And I was just like, I'm not going to bother worrying about it. I just tried it. The first time it went in, it felt really weird.
Yeah.
But it kind of felt like it was filling your face. And then it leaks out of your nose and your mouth. And it actually feels quite nice. So yeah, who knows?
I've been using mine for a couple of months now because I had very, very similar to what you had, really intense pain in the forehead. I've not had it since, certainly not to the same degree. And I quite like my little neti pots in the morning, actually. It's a bit weird.
You do it regularly?
Yeah, well, maybe not every day, but it does properly clears you out. Sometimes you just feel a bit bunged up, maybe a couple of days a week or whatever. Now, whenever I feel even the slightest bit bunged up, go and do it. You get 60 packets in less, 10 a pack.
I can't believe Lou does this all for you.
Yeah, she's
such
a good
lovely wife. So yeah. Any other news? Anything going on soon? I think Rich, you're going to Cornwall, aren't you?
Yeah, going this weekend, man. So we all know someone that lives up that way.
Yeah.
Any guesses who?
Our mate Tony.
Yeah.
Matt Newman?
No, it's Tony. Me and Tony are on a mission to rack up as many points as we can while I'm up there. So
hang on, that's not fair.
What's not fair?
If he takes you, if you get any form of guilt head brain or trigger while you're down there, I'm kicking you off the
podcast. Well, be prepared is all I can say. Be prepared. I think this time next week, you two might not actually be ahead of me anymore.
You've got some catching up to do, though. How many points are you behind now?
I don't know. What are you on? I'm on 103 still.
I don't know, actually, to be honest.
But to be fair, by the time you get 3 crabs, 3 flounder, I'm pretty much caught up to you. So
nothing, is it?
That's another thing. I haven't had a single brown crab this year.
Well, do you know, I haven't had a single lobster. All the ones I keep seeing are too small.
Yesterday afternoon I saw plenty of lobsters. I took one.
Yeah.
Because I haven't had one for a while. But literally, I've been diving since October last year. I've seen one brown crab that was too small, that was buried in sand, a female, and I've never ever seen another brown crab.
I went to the spot a while back, and when you see the rock structures got a lot of ledges in it horizontally, as Sam Seeley was saying about where the crabs like to sit. And I went underneath the water, and obviously telltale from the cliffs. It had a lot of ledges everywhere and caves, and literally looked in all the ledges, and I didn't see any brown crabs. Not one. Really odd. No, I mean, if anywhere, that would have been like the perfect habitat as well. So, yeah, don't know. But I was talking to someone, and they were saying that all their brown crab they've had this year have been in the sand. I know Ben's had a few as well, so don't know.
Yeah, I think most of mine have been out and about a little bit, or under the kelp, or moving between rocks. I don't think I've had any extractions this year, but my favourite spot for crabs has just been blown out pretty much all year. So maybe when that clears up, Anthony will have to go down.
Go down where?
Secret spot. Richard's not invited.
Don't be like that just because I'm diving with Tony for 2 weeks.
Well, mate, I thought I was going to be invited. I took a couple of days off.
Who said you weren't invited?
Oh, okay. All right.
Nobody said you weren't invited. Nobody's offered an invitation to Anthony there.
Sounds about right, really. You're all I don't know why I get bullied so much. Considering I'm bigger than fucking all of you. So.
I'm only playing, mate. You can come down as well, of course.
Oh, thanks, babe.
So, Richard, you did a bit of a poll, didn't you, online about what our listeners would like to hear from us today. Mm-hmm. What were the results of that one?
No one responded. They all said, shut up.
Yeah, so there wasn't actually any responders to that one.
There was?
No, there wasn't.
There definitely was when I filled it out. I voted for myself. But
I was going to say, was that the poll where it said, do you want to talk about cooking and stuff?
Yeah.
Nothing came up.
Yeah, mate, definitely was.
Was it just you? Okay, well, because I responded.
No, mate, honest, I'm looking at it right now.
There was at least, Rich, if you go to your archive, Instagram, you can see all your stories.
Archive. Where's the archive?
What was it you're drinking now?
He's taking my turn tonight because I can't drink because antibiotics.
Yeah, no, sorry, no. I just during the break, I just popped to the shop and went and got my breath hold improvers and a bottle of confidence improver, which barefoot, jammy red, it shouldn't legally be allowed to be sold.
Oh God, I hate red wine.
It is alcoholic Ribena. It's 10.5% Ribena, and I'm drinking it straight out of the bottle with a straw. But never mind.
It's grim. I like Ribena. Can't stand red wine. Maybe I'm just drinking the wrong stuff.
Have you tried jammy red?
No, I haven't actually.
So it is, I believe, the most hated red wine of people that actually drink red wine.
Right.
Hence the reason I drink it.
I'm on amaretto tonight for me.
Oh, very nice.
Christmas in
a very
glass.
Posh cut glass.
They're lovely, aren't they? It was a Christmas present for Lou one year. She never uses them. So, yeah.
Cheers. I wouldn't expect Ben to drink out anything else, to be honest.
What are you saying, mate?
Gold-plated cup.
What do you call me the other day? The conservative one.
No, that wasn't even me. That was my other half.
How was it?
So when we were at the pub doing our Scotland Sky trip, we were talking about obviously the fact that I'm the most loved person in the whole podcast.
By my wife, apparently.
Hi, Lou. And how obviously I'm the opposite of a prude, and my dark humor gets me in lots of trouble. And Rachel said, "Well, yeah, but it's because most of the guys that you sort of go spearfishing with are like kind of squares." And I'm not even joking. She's going to kill me for saying that, because she said,
I probably do look like a square, but that's a bit harsh.
And I was like, no, they're not.
No, but she said
going back to primary school, being bullied again.
She said most of the guys, so I want to know if I'm included.
No, she said Richard was an egg.
I don't know which I'd rather be.
I'll give it that one. To be fair, I'm getting a few pounds.
Dear. Well, we recently we had on Instagram and Facebook we had a poll, I believe, on what people wanted us to talk about, and Richard was really good in that he had no idea there was any response.
Well, I have now found out that
We taught him how to use Instagram, didn't we?
if anyone messages us on Instagram, it's me on the background, and I have no idea how to use it. So you're lucky if you get a reply. Yeah. So the majority basically wanted to know all of the above.
Okay.
So
what are the 3 topics?
That included videography and GoPro settings, cooking and recipes, and our funniest / scariest stories to date. So that's quite a lot of topics. So maybe we just let's start with cooking, shall we? And just chuck a recipe out each that we haven't used on the podcast yet. Does that sound good?
Yeah,
all right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Anthony, you go first.
Scallops. So, fire grilled garlic butter, homemade garlic butter, scallops. I did them when I was on my freediving trip down to Cornwall at Porthcerris, I believe it was. During the spearfishing comp at Meadfoot, I managed to get a load of scallops, took them down with me back to Cornwall for the rest of the long weekend, and went to Lidl, got some butter, parsley, ground garlic paste or fresh garlic if you've got the time. Put it all in the butter, minced it all up, de-bearded the scallops. So shuck the scallops, de-beard them, get rid of the roe. Again, none of the roes are worth taking this time of year or at that particular time. Little dollop of the freshly made garlic butter, stick them on the fire in a little tin foil, effectively like an upside down hat, so that you've got your own little tin foil plate. Stick them on the fire until they're done, which for me, the fire was pretty shit. So probably about 15-20 minutes. But if it's a hot fire or a barbecue, 5-10 minutes and they'll be perfect.
Nice. I feel like when you said you took all the roe and everything off, I could feel the oyster lady cringe when she hears that. She'd probably eat the whole lot, wouldn't she? Ben, what you got, mate?
Yeah, I was just scrolling through my Instagram just to try and remember something. My memory's not that great. One thing I do like using is panko breadcrumbs. I was going to do. I quite like. Can I use a scallop recipe as well? Is that
Yeah.
So one thing I like to do with my scallop, how you normally fry them in a pan, do one side for 1 or 2 minutes, flip it over until it's got a nice bit of colour.
Mm-hmm.
What I like to do is one side do that with a little bit of colour, but before you put them in the pan, if you dip them in a bit of flour and just dip, just the surface, the bottom surface in a bit of flour.
Yeah.
Then in egg, so just mix some eggs together, dip it again, just that bottom bit, and then dip them in some panko breadcrumbs, and then put that bit into the frying pan, breadcrumbs down, 2 minutes or so, and judge it by the color, not the time. Turn it over, so you do the top that's now the bottom, the same kind of as you would normally a scallop, a little bit brown. And you end up with a really kind of crispy edge to the scallop on one side and a really juicy edge on the other. And it just adds a little bit of texture that you don't often get with scallops. And then it just adds something a little bit extra. I like a bit of texture in my food. I do sound a bit like a square, don't I?
Well, for anybody that's not a square and don't have access to Waitrose or Marks and Sparks, the other thing that you can do instead of getting panko breadcrumbs is get some cornflakes and just mash them up a little bit in the bag, and they're just as good as panko.
Yeah, I'm sure that would work, but I do prefer my panko breadcrumbs.
You don't want scallops and frosted shreddies?
but and then what? I guess it's a whole recipe thing. So we ought to pair it with something. I like to keep the shells. I bake the shells in the oven or the grill just to kind of remove any whatever's left over. Obviously, chuck everything else out there. Put some soy sauce and some honey. Mix that together, and then spread some lemon rind and maybe some orange rind and some coriander, bit of lemon juice on top, and then you basically dip those crispy scallops into that. Bit of chili as well. Don't forget the chili. And it's just divine. And we were on the beach the other day with our friend Lawrence and did something a little bit simple without the panko breadcrumbs, with just that dip. So basically, I took 2 pots to the beach. One pot was the honey and soy and lime, coriander, chopped up chili, so a bit like that juicy bit. The other was the I think brought limes. Put the did the oil and the scallops first, so they're nice and cooked. Pour in the soy next, and then pour the limes on top of that, and then you've just got this delicious beach snack. It's pretty easy to clear up afterwards. So
Nice.
yeah, bloody love scallops. We haven't had scallops in ages, actually. I guess it's not a good time of year to have them, is it? Because they're spawning.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, they spawn all the way up until I think it's autumn, is it? Something like that. And then you can start taking, well, you can take them whenever, but I like to start taking them again sort of around autumn. But sticking with the scallop theme, maybe I'll chuck one up as well.
Go for it, yeah.
It gives listeners a good variety, doesn't it? So I do a 2 cheese scallop recipe, which is I clean the scallop out. So, as Anthony said, remove all that sort of roe and everything else. Depends what time of year it is. Sometimes if the roe's full, I keep it. And then I put them back in their shells, and I put like a bit of parsley, bit of butter, garlic, and then I put grated blue cheese and grated mozzarella cheese in there.
Wow.
And what's that?
I was just saying, wow.
Sorry.
Probably tasty. Yeah, sorry. No,
I thought you said, hold on.
No. Wow.
I'm half deaf, man. Don't forget.
Hey.
So yeah, I chuck that into the oven, and yeah, just again, I just eye it really, and then when it looks nice and crispy and brown on top, get them out, and yeah, that's I usually just, to be honest, I'm quite lazy, so I normally just have some chips with it on the side. Seems to be quite well paired together because you can dip into cheese and whatever else. But yeah, that's a really good recipe for autumn when it's getting a bit colder. Yeah,
nice.
Really good.
That's lush.
Nice. You don't need many scallops if you're doing that recipe either. So if you've only got like 3 scallops, it's a good recipe to do because you feel like you get a good portion from 3 scallops.
Yeah, the side pairing of chips, very nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. Should we do another recipe? Pick a fish like red mullet or bass or
I'll go for one that I haven't done before. This was the first time I cooked it, which is triggerfish.
Oh yeah.
So everybody told me to skin it first and then cook it. I spoke to the oyster lady, and she said just score it with the skin on and chuck it straight onto the barbecue or braai, as I tend to have them. So I didn't even score it because I tried, but I don't have a knife sharp enough.
It's really tough, isn't it? That skin.
Their skin is, like it could be an alternative to leather, couldn't it? So yeah, I didn't even score it. I just chucked it straight onto the braai, and I just basted it like quite a lot because it looked like it was drying out. So I basted it a lot with butter and garlic, and I stuffed the cavity obviously with rosemary and garlic. But when it basically became cooked, the skin just peeled straight off the meat. I didn't even have to mess around. It just peeled off in one big whole piece, which I actually fed to the dog when it cooled down. And yeah, that was just unreal. Honestly, it was so good, just with a little bit of rosemary and garlic inside the belly cavity. I just wanted to taste the flavors of the fish, and I can see why they say it's the chicken of the sea because it's such a firm meat, isn't it? But yeah, that was really good. I like that recipe. It was good. You guys?
Yeah, I was just looking at what I cooked the other night with that red mullet. not anything particularly exciting, but I as I said a little bit earlier, if it made it to the final cut, we did a, what do you call it? Like a butterfly cut. So cut out the backbone, pulled all the little bones out with some pliers, and kind of flattened it, and then did it in a pan, skin side down. And then once it was, it probably only takes like a couple of minutes. And what I tend to do is do it lid off first when it's frying, then turn the heat down and put the lid on without turning it over. Maybe put some lemon or something citrusy on top on the exposed flesh. And that then cooks the flesh without kind of overcooking the meat. Not for long, they're quite small fish, I guess, but fairly thin. So probably only want maybe 3 minutes at most.
Yeah.
And then whip that out and then deglaze the pan. So I'll turn up the heat first so it, takes on the flavour nicely. Put some lemonade. I don't know, lemonade's probably frowned upon in cookery circles, but I quite like lemonade for batter or sauces or anything like that. It's just got
for sure.
Flavour. Yeah, so pouring some lemonade, that deglazes the pan, gets all the flavours of the red mullet, which obviously is delicious. Add some soy sauce, some honey from our friend Lawrence, and just like that, served on with hot salad. God, beautiful.
Nice.
Very
Anthony,
nice.
what you got?
It's got to be my all-time favorite fish meal cook, whatever you want to call it. My favorite way to eat seafood is skate wing, so ray wing, in a beurre noisette or black butter and capers, and shoot yourself a skate, fillet the skate wings so that you've got 2 big angel wings and then half them, so you've effectively got 4 little angel wings. Melt some butter in a pan, leave it on sort of a high heat until it goes just about caramel brown. While you're waiting for it to go caramel brown, season your skate wings. So dry the skate wing first, take it out of the fridge, dry it, pat it dry with some kitchen towel, salt and pepper, put it in the butter until the flesh starts going quite white, but you're not looking to cook the fish at this point. So maybe a minute or so on one side, turn it over, do the other side. Once you've turned it over and done the other side, add capers, another knob of butter, another bit more of salt and pepper, and then the juice of 1 or 2 lemons, depending on how sour you like things, and a really finely chopped white onion, and then just simmer the whole thing. Add, the recipe says, half a glass of champagne or prosecco. Add 3 glasses of champagne or prosecco, and just really cook it down with the capers in there as well. And just simmer it down until the flesh is really, really white and starting to brown on one side. Flip it over, brown the other side, and then take it out and serve with some microwaved veg. Also, microwaving veg is the best way of cooking vegetables. Stop boiling all of your vegetables. As a pro tip, put your veg in a bowl, tiny bit of water, which is normally from where you've washed the veg, stick it in a bowl with a bit of cling film, stick it in the microwave for 2 minutes, and it will be the best vegetables you've ever eaten in your life. That's the only good thing a microwave is for, apart from popcorn.
Apart from popcorn.
I'm addicted to popcorn. Honestly, I'll send you a photo of my cupboard. I think so. McColl's have popcorn on offer as a side thing. Popcorn on offer for £1 a box is way better than ever buying any of the really known brand popcorn. It's so nice, but it's £1 a box. But I'm addicted to it.
So that gives the listeners quite a variety, doesn't it? The next subject, I think maybe let's crack on with the next one.
Yeah, sure.
Which was what's your scariest / funniest story to date? Ben, you want to go first?
Yeah, I feel like we've probably done these ones already, but it was that losing the float
That
in
was yours,
pitch
was it?
black
Brixham.
hurricane Brixham. Yeah, so just to recap what that story was,
But
just
also,
in
just to
case.
interject,
I'll
just
go
for
for it.
anybody that's going to comment on anything, we were scallop diving. So
Yeah.
we were not spearfishing when this happened.
Yeah, so as Anthony says, we were scallop diving, but when I go out at night, scallop diving or lobster diving or whatever, I still like to take my gun as a bit of like a drop weight that I can put down on the seafloor. It's nice to carry. It's just a really convenient thing. And to be fair, normally we go in when it's light, shoot a few fish, or maybe a fish if we're lucky, and then unload it as it obviously goes into sunset and start scalloping or lobstering or whatever we're doing. But anyway, I was swimming back towards Anthony from I don't know where it was in some cove hunting for lobsters, and I realised that I had my gun. Obviously I said unloaded. It was but not attached to the float line anymore. So I looked back and the float was gone. The float line was gone. And there was no float to be seen at all. Now, luckily, I like to put a torch on my float as well as in my hand when I'm lobstering or scalloping. And I looked back, and about a mile away or so, I could see this, I guess, cove all lit up. I say all lit up. It was obviously pitch black. There was a bit of a light in a corner. So I shouted to Anthony, "Mate, I've lost my float. I don't know what I'm going to do. It's got my phone on. It's got everything on. It's going to cost me a fortune. I'm not going to be able to get back home because it's got everything I need to get into the car in." And it was blowing an absolute gale. It was pounding down with rain. Anyway, I swam to that light in the corner, and it happened to be my float. So it's a hell of a lucky story there. So yeah, clipped it back on and carried on with the dive. But that was certainly a bit of a scary moment when you realise that the thing that you thought was attached to you is no longer attached to you, and that's your way of getting home. I don't think I've had any particularly scary moments like where I felt threatened in any way. Like the exception is with seals. There's a few instances with seals. In fact, you were there. In fact, you've both been there for them. So Anthony was the first time I saw a seal. So last year, I'd never been in. I'd only just started spearfishing. Me and Anthony had gone down to a local site in Torbay, and this huge seal. I didn't realize they got that big at the time. Just swam underneath us, and it must have been you could reach out and touch it, but I was properly scared. You get that like shot of adrenaline, your heart goes, and I was so scared because you're out of your depth. I've only probably been spearfishing a handful of times. I've probably never shot a fish at this point. I looked at Anthony and said, "Seal, fuck, let's get out of here!" And we like swam towards each other. Yeah, that was quite scary. Obviously, there was nothing to be scared of, as I've since discovered. I guess the other time was down in Cornwall and St Austell Bay with you, Richard, where like, mate, there's a seal behind you. I was like, oh shit, there is, and it was like I don't know, a couple of meters away, just popping up to have a look at it. Again, huge bull seal. I have found in the past seals pretty scary, but that same day I had a really nice experience with a slightly smaller seal. But that kind of opened my eyes to how nice they can be as well as they're scary.
I was going to say, you got some epic footage, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I still haven't put it on YouTube or anything. I think there's a little video on Instagram, but it's pretty cool. They're so playful and can be really good fun. I know they can be aggressive in the wrong situation, but actually, I think on the whole, my fears were pretty unfounded. How about you, Anthony? Have you got any scary stories?
Or funny stories?
Or funny.
Normally I'd go for a funny story, but my dementia's kicked in. And yeah, no, I'd say the scariest. When I first started spearfishing, I had this phobia of kelp, and it was actually Richard got me over it when we went for another dive into a bay, and it was probably my first. Yeah, no, it was my first ever buddy dive. and we went and parked in the car park, and we had to go amble over some rocks and get into the sea via the rocks, which again was the first time I'd ever done that. And it was straight into sort of 1 or 2 meter high kelp, and so it's like a baptism of fire. But then I'd say the scariest thing ever, leading on from that, is I've still got this really stupid phobia of things I can't see in the dark. And so when we go lobster hunting or scallop diving at night, there was one time that I went, and this was East Devon way, and I was going specifically for lobsters and brown crab, and out sort of I'm swimming along in and amongst rocks, in and amongst kelp. I'm fine with kelp and fine with rocks now, but come around this rock, and probably 15 meters on to my right, just past this rock, I saw this ghostly white figure in the water, and I was like, "The fuck is that?" And so I've frozen, absolutely frozen in the water. And I'm for listeners that haven't met me yet, I'm 6'6" and not scrawny, and so I shouldn't really have a fear of anything in the sea apart from great whites. But yeah, so I started sort of swimming towards it. My curiosity triggered, and anyway, it was the biggest eel, albino eel, or what they call what was it you said earlier?
Conger eel.
Conger eel. Yeah, it was the biggest albino conger eel I've ever seen, and its head and body was just out of this water, and it's out of this rock in the water, and his mouth was just doing that conger eel open and close. And as I started swimming away, still looking behind me at this eel, he's just watching me leave, and I'm just like, nah, fuck that. Nope. No, thank you. Don't want anything to do with that situation. Swim away as fast as you can. And then for the rest of the dive, I was just like, nah. I just like, my heart is going a million miles an hour, and I'm waiting for this giant white conger eel to come and eat me.
I've been diving for a while now, and I still have this, I don't know, this thing in my head where every time I put my face into a cave, I feel like a conger eel is going to come flying at it. I still get that feeling. It's never happened, but I still feel like it's going to happen one day.
Have you seen that video, that little YouTube video short of the spearfisher? I don't know where he was. He was somewhere in like either Australia or America, and he's just swimming along with his spear gun, looking at the fish in front of him, and out from his left, just off of camera, has come this conger and bit his rubbers, and like one of his rubbers snapped. Yeah. And that video, I was like, yeah, I still don't like conger eels. I'd rather play with the seal.
Yeah, I've got a few interesting stories. So
we're still talking about spearfishing, right, Rich?
Yeah, that's the thing, man. I've been doing it for a while, so I got a few of them. Shall we go there? Should we not go there? I mean,
go there.
Oh, I see the poo story. You obviously want to go there, Richard. I'm not sure anybody else wants you to. Go on,
I feel
get it
like,
off your chest, as it were.
I feel like you're not.
Why was there poo on Richard's chest?
I feel like you're not a veteran spearer until you actually have a poo story, to be honest. So, yeah, basically, I just got caught out really, really bad on a solo dive. Thankfully, it was a solo dive. And I landed up having to do what wet mammal I heard once described as the Cornish turtle, where you pull your wetsuit down to your ankles and the top up to your head, and you get in a fetal position and just let rip down hide. And I had to do that in front of the coastal walking path because there was high tide and there was no beaches to go to. So I'm sure all the tourists that were walking along the coastal path got quite a good view of that. So that was one story. There was another story where I was changing into my wetsuit, and I have this dry rope, which is one-piece dry rope. And when I pulled my pants up, my wetsuit pants, it obviously like almost got caught or somehow, wherever it was, and basically my arse was hanging out. And I didn't realize until a couple had walked past, and the guy said, "You do know your arse is hanging out, right?" So there's that as well. But scariest stories, I haven't really had anything too scary. I felt like I had to nearly drop my weight belt once when I was diving quite deep,
Really?
because I got a bit too carried away, and that was actually scallop diving. So it was like when I was quite new to the sport, went down. I think I was on about 10, 12 meters, something like that. And I sort of getting carried away really because there was scallops everywhere, and I'm just getting carried away, picking them all up and stashing them. And then I sort of, I don't know, like, when fish come in and all of a sudden you forget like how long you've been holding your breath.
Yeah.
It was a similar situation to that. So a bit carried away. And then all of a sudden I realized, oh no, I've still got like a far way to get back up. And panic started kicking in a bit. And then obviously I then need to breathe even more. And yeah, I literally put my hand on my weight belt, about to drop it. And then was like, no, just calm down. Had a word with myself and calmed everything down. Got to the top, took a huge inhale and felt a little bit unsure as to whether I should carry on diving because that was like super scary. But that's the only like scariest thing that's happened to me spearfishing. I mean, I'm sure if you ask other people, maybe some boats, maybe like nearly mowing me down, I suppose might be the other things. I've had a couple of boats nearly take my head off. But other than that, nothing really, to be honest.
Yeah, I guess we were pretty lucky in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, I think it just depends. Like, if you're going to be diving a lot deeper, like other countries, then they tend to have those accidents. Not to say it's not going to happen, obviously, but you're putting yourself in a position where potentially it's going to happen more, I guess, the deeper you dive. So it's just something to be aware of, I suppose. We don't really do that kind of thing in the UK, but yeah, doesn't say it couldn't happen. We know a couple of people who's happened to, don't we? So
yeah, absolutely. I was just thinking back to when I first started diving. I didn't realize that you had to have a surface interval. Obviously, as we all know, you need to do 2 to 3 times.
Yeah.
Your what do you call it? What's the opposite of the surface? The
dive depth.
what?
Dive time.
Dive time.
Dive time. Yeah.
Yeah, and I do remember one of those dives coming up and feeling. I'd obviously been going up and down and up and down and not really thinking about it, which is really stupid. You should have. And it's not like me. Like I'm pretty good at you research what you do before you do it, that kind of stuff. Do lots of reading, etc. But I was obviously really excited at the time to get in the water, and yeah, I do remember like exhaling some air on the way up, and then thinking when I got to the surface, why did I exhale the air? So I'd obviously kind of like got myself into a state where I wasn't quite thinking properly.
Just getting a bit carried away.
Yeah, and that was a moment for me where I was like, no, I need to be a little bit more careful here because I'm not quite sure what I'm doing. And I think at that point, obviously, did a bit more research into, what can happen if you're constantly diving, not having proper surface intervals, what are loss of motor control, shallow water blackouts, and all those kind of things, and kind of clued myself up. And I'm not saying that's definitely what it was, but I definitely remember feeling a little bit weird when I got back to the surface and not really out of breath. So I think it was probably that kind of repeated diving that got my my head into that kind of state where I wasn't quite in control.
Yeah, the cold in our country plays a big part of that as well. So
yeah,
that's a massive factor that a lot of people forget is that we dive really cold water compared to other people. So that's got a huge part to do with like shallow water blackout stuff. But I think probably what we should do at some point is get an expert on to talk about like shallow water blackouts.
Yeah,
and,
really important.
Yeah, definitely. So we'll line that up and we'll get someone who is an actual expert on the subject to come and talk about it. But yeah, that's my only real scary story, to be honest. Mostly just positive and funny stuff happening all the time. But yeah, I mean, you two, I'm sure we get caught up one day, and then you'll have to do the Cornish turtle, and I can then take the piss out of you two. So, but I'm just taking it as a badge of honor.
Literally on your chest. But like on a serious point, I think for the listeners, the one thing that you can't do enough of is be aware of your surroundings when you're spearfishing, and doing the research into as much as you possibly can before you do go spearfishing. One of the things, and I've only just remembered, one of the scariest things that I ever found was bumping into a gill net and not realizing that the two buoys that were a specific distance apart and marked in a specific way in Devon waters were to denote that there is a net there. And I was swimming towards it to go and save a bird that got caught in the top line. And sort of as I got there, it's then, shit, it's this fishing line net that is damn near invisible in the water, that is of the correct size to tangle you as a human, and it will drown you. So it's getting that experience and knowing what to look for on the surface and being aware that that not all those buoys are marking pots. Some of them are marking nets, and I mean more recently, I believe in Plymouth, lots of nets went out in the last 2 weeks, and there's been a few people that have sort of bumped into them, shall we say, and been perfectly fine because they're experienced bureaus. But just going on YouTube and looking at fishermen, buoy identification, just a little video like that may end up saving your life one day.
Yeah, scary thought, eh?
Cool. And so the last question we had was videography and GoPro settings. I have no idea. So I think Ben probably is going to be the one for this.
Yeah, I could probably help. I brought my GoPro along, so I knew you were going to talk about this. So,
what GoPro are you guys using first of all?
So I've got the 10. I think you've got the same, Anthony.
I do, and I'd say one of the first things in the settings is turn it on, because that's one thing that I keep fucking forgetting to do.
The problem is so I have mine attached to my mask, and I guess the same for you, Anthony. Up here, I obviously look like a bit of an idiot. None of the listeners can hear me, but stick that on your head, and or on a stick sometimes as well, actually. But when it's on my head, you obviously can't see if it's on or off. And the way the GoPro works is you have a button that turns it on or off. That's the normal way to use it, at least with the case that it comes with. And it has a little tone. It goes like, well, you can hear it. Hang on, I'll show you what it does. So
beep,
press
beep,
the
beep.
button. So this is the on tone. And this one is the off tone. Anyway, they're both down the same. So often when we're out for a dive, you forget that you haven't turned it off. So you press the button to turn it on and you end up turning it off. And this happens on basically about 50% of my shots. I think you might be able to turn the volume up, but then you might scare away the fish. But it's an absolute nightmare. I haven't found a good solution to that. So if anybody does know a good solution to that, do let me know. Obviously, it's not a problem if you can see it. So like gun mounts, that's probably a better option for idiots like me. Or let's say the handhold thing. So sometimes I quite like just going out and filming stuff. Not necessarily filming myself shooting fish or whatever. I'll put the gun down, leave it on the seabed or whatever. Take my GoPro out on its stick, little floaty stick. Jump down into the kelp and see what's around. It's quite a nice thing to do, really. But yeah, Anthony, you got any tips for that one?
No, I've had exactly the same. So there was one day I went on with our friend Paul Maxwell, and at one point he was playing around, and I'd shot a really decent sized bass and put it on my float. And 10 minutes later, it was then not on my float. And so because I knew how funny the footage would have been of me effing and jeffing, trying to find this bloody fish that I think's just fallen off my stringer, I turned the GoPro on. But like you say, it was already on. So you get the initial video of me seeing that there's no bass on my float. And then I turned the camera off as I'm then effing and jeffing for the next 45 minutes trying to find a fish. So it's learning those beeps. And I'd say that it's the 3 beeps to turn on. And then it's as you press the button, it instantly beeps. And that's how you know it's turning off. Yeah. And then it gives 4 more beeps after that.
But it's really annoying. In fact, our logo that we have on Instagram and I guess on podcasts and stuff like that, that was a picture of a shoal of mullet. And that was literally about 1 second of the shoal, because I saw the shoal and I was like, wow, this is amazing. They're all swimming around me and they were like so close. I'd not seen them come in that close, and definitely not in those numbers. It was a beautiful sight. So I pressed the record button thinking this is going to be some incredible footage. And I was right. The bit up until I pressed the off button, thinking it was the on button, was incredible footage, but it was literally like half a second. So, yeah, pretty freaking annoying.
At least we got a logo out of it, so that's something.
We got a logo out of it, exactly. But once you go on,
I was going to say, I think in terms of settings, the only thing that you want to make sure that you don't have on is the old school wide mode of what I would call the typical GoPro look. Back when GoPro first came out, they had the proper wide lens, and it was really good for a while. But now that we've got 4K and 8K, that wide lens just doesn't look right when you're recording footage. So just all I'd say is make sure that your lens settings or your zoom or width, I can't remember what it's called, settings, are just not on wide. And then also with the GoPro 10, I don't know whether you find it's the same, Ben, but if I'm recording in 4K, it rinses the battery. And I've got a 250 odd gig SD card, so that's no issue. But the battery probably lasts only 45 minutes with constant use. And they can overheat. Obviously, we're in water, so they shouldn't. But
yeah, so a couple of tips for that, actually. I was going to say 2.7K is a little bit softer on the battery and still gives you enough room to crop to 1080p. So actually, I guess some people might know what we're talking about here. So 4K is basically 4 times the resolution of your normal HD, which is 1080p. 27K, 2.7K is kind of a halfway point in between. So you can still crop it down to that 1080p picture, which is, as I say, HD, but you don't lose any of the quality at that point. Obviously, if you go lower than 1080p, like 720p, you can't really have an HD quality picture. You also can't have a 4K picture from 2.7K footage. GoPro's actually got up to 5K now, so I guess if you had infinite battery life, that would be pretty cool, and infinite storage as well, because it does eat up the storage.
5.2, isn't it? Something
yeah, exactly. But battery life, like you say, is a huge problem. I do have one of those white batteries. I forget what they're called, but they're like better in
the
colder
extended
water.
battery.
Yeah, and I think it probably is a little bit better, but it's not particularly special. But probably worth doing. Just going back to your point around the wide, Anthony, I do actually have mine on wide. There is a super, what do they call it? Super view, though. Super views. They call it 16 mil. That one's probably the one that you don't want.
That's the old school GoPro, the super wide sort of capture that you used to see videos of people skiing down a mountain. It looked really cool, but yeah, in the sea, it distorts the edges and it just makes it look odd. But those batteries. No, when I first bought my GoPro, I ordered the GoPro that obviously came with a normal blue battery and then 2 white batteries.
Yeah,
they give me an extra 7 or 8 minutes on battery life because I just think they're a higher milliamp hour, which is good. But again, the thing to do when you're spearfishing is what we were saying earlier on about the turning it off and on. That will extend your battery life massively because there's no point in you recording while you're on the surface, while you're finning around. So you just need to get into the habit of just before you dive, just before you're about to do your pre-equalization, to then hit record before you dive, and you'll find that you can do a 4 or 5 hour dive on one battery.
Yeah.
So, as someone who has no idea about using a GoPro while spearfishing, got a couple of questions. So when like you're diving, everything in the sea looks pretty green, really. Does that come out like that on GoPro? Because when you see the footage, it looks like colors are quite good.
Yeah,
and it doesn't look as green. I mean, is that something you edit afterwards, or?
I don't know if you've seen some videos you'll watch and they'll kind of change color as they get deeper and deeper. It'll start like normal sunny day and they go down to the sea and it turns green. That's to do with something called white balance. And on the GoPro, I think you can set it to like auto or something like that, which means it adjusts it based on what it's currently seeing. So you can be mid-video and it will change the white balance. What it thinks is white balance is basically what you think is white. What color is white?
You're right.
And so what you want to do on the GoPro is fix that white balance to a specific value, which means as you go up or down, it doesn't change. Now, as for, if it comes out green in the footage, you can adjust that in post a little bit. I use Adobe Premiere. Anthony, what do you use?
Again, yeah, Adobe Premiere, but I'd say on that is just make sure that it's not on either any of the the warm or the cold settings for the colors.
Yeah.
Because water absorbs light as you go down, and so light is made up of different wavelengths of the light spectrum. And as you go further down, I'm pretty sure it's green and blue that are the last ones, whereas your reds and stuff go really quick.
Yeah.
So that's why it will show as green really, really fast. But I'm pretty sure in a lot of the videos that Dan PK, I've just married Daniel Mann and Joe PK are going to have a baby, and it's going to be called Dan PK. But yeah, Daniel Mann did a GoPro settings video on YouTube that was awesome. And a load of other people have done it. And I'd say sit there with your GoPro, go out, do the settings video before, go out for a dive, and see how the footage looks. Editing the video footage from a GoPro takes a lot of time. You're not going to have YouTube quality, the big boy quality video on your first 2 dives. It takes some serious man hours to get into, and Ben is really, really good with what he does on a lot of his Instagrams.
So Ben, what have you got your white balance set to then? You said there's a specific value.
Well, I was going to say, similar to what Anthony's saying, you're not going to get it right the first time. That's because you kind of need to test your settings. And it's different on a cloudy day to a sunny day as well. But I have mine set at 4000K. That's, I guess, on the color chart is a cooler kind of tone, but I find that's a good balance for being underwater. And I can't remember if that was some advice from someone in particular, but I find that color means I don't need to do much correction in post. And as a rule of thumb, you want to get your footage as close to the right color as you can, because colors are quite difficult to fix in post. Possible, but difficult. There's a few other settings as well that obviously affect those things. I don't think I've changed most of the color settings, but I guess it might be worth talking about. People want a science lesson. The exposure triangle. Have you heard of that?
Mm-hmm.
No idea.
Okay, so exposure triangle is basically those 3 different variables that lead to an exposure. And exposure is basically how bright an image comes out of the camera. You've got your aperture, your shutter speed, and the ISO. Sometimes you'll see a really grainy image that's shot maybe in the dark. That's high ISO. You want the ISO to be as low as possible to get the highest quality picture, but you can't have a really low ISO image in a dark place, like under the sea. You have shutter speed, and if you have a shutter speed that is too long, you'll get blurry images. Now, you'll see some older GoPro images where the shutter speed has been maybe 1/25th of a second, and you'll see the fish looking all blurry. You need a shutter speed, and I set mine to 1/50, so 1/50th of a second. That's kind of enough to get a fairly sharp image, but even so, sometimes if the fish are moving quickly or you're moving quickly, there'll be a bit of blur. But the slower the shutter speed, the brighter the image it will be. So far we talked about ISO. You want that to be higher for a brighter image, but it gets too high, you get grain. Shutter speed, you want that to be as quick as possible, but if you do it too quick, the image will be too dark. And if you do it too slow, you'll see motion blur. And the final part of the triangle is aperture. And basically that's the hole that lets in the light. And the aperture on a GoPro is fixed. I don't know what the actual aperture is, but you can't change that. On a DSLR camera, you can change that. That's how you get things like depth of field, where you have like a nice background blur. That's using a big aperture in combination with other things like focal length. But we won't go there today because, again, fixed focal length. Anyway, there's your science lesson. What do you think?
No wonder Rachel said Lou was square. No wonder why
Yeah, I
Rachel
deserve
said
that.
Ben was square even. I'm going to get in trouble there.
Lou, you're not square at all. We love you, Lou.
Yeah, no, that's really cool, man. So my other question really is like,
Yeah.
obviously you guys dive with this GoPros on your head, and it's just on some sort of strap, isn't it? Not even attached to your goggles.
No, it is.
It is attached.
It
is
is.
it?
Yeah. So I think Ben's got a head, or did have at some point. I don't know whether you still use it, Ben.
Yeah.
Oh, you do. So, hence the reason you lost it that one time,
Yeah.
Mr. Lucky. So Ben's got a head strap, which is a elastic or elastine head strap with the GoPro mount on the front of it, on top of his hood, or as well as his goggles. I had, and have now realized why my goggles broke. I had a Bochat set of goggles with a GoPro mount on top.
Yeah.
Oh, there's the noise of the GoPro. And so I've got mine attached to my mask, but I swam through kelp at one of our East Devon spots, which then caught it had, I didn't realize, ripped against the GoPro, pulled the GoPro up and ripped my mask to the side. I just swam along thinking, oh, it's kelp on my face. I'll just, man it or not to be sexist, I'll just brutalize it, and then broke my mask, ripped the side of my mask out. Hence the reason I then couldn't use my mask for the rest of that time.
Do you guys not worry that you're going to lose these GoPros? They cost like
I have done.
£500 a pop.
When it came off my head, different East Devon dive site, I won't go as far as beside myself. I'm a grown man, right? But and it's only a bit of technology, but it was I was really upset with myself.
But I can't bring myself to buy something that expensive just to lose it in the sea, man. That's why I've got one of these like 8-man cameras or something. And the only reason I'm even remotely thinking about using it is just to show some of my friends and family what it is we actually do. Because I'm sure you guys have had it where a lot of people just think you're nuts and have no idea what it is. So that's the only reason I wanted to show them, really.
No, I do love film. It's because last year I didn't have any way to film some of the things I was seeing. And some of the things I was seeing just completely blew my mind. Swimming in a shoal of, hundreds, maybe thousands of fish is just something I never thought that you could do in this country. I thought that was something, Great Barrier Reef or whatever.
Yeah.
It was just something, and I wanted to show friends and family or whatever, and it's quite it's nice to show on Instagram and show other people what we do. I think for me, spearfishing is a lot more than just shooting fish. It's about being in that environment and soaking it up and escaping into that different world that most people never get to see.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. I mean, in terms of the losing the GoPro, I'm the same as I'd say. I mean, not to do anything apart from be financial about it. My watch is probably 3 times the price of a GoPro.
Yeah,
and I've been, and I wear my watch all the time, but so my watch is worth considerably more, or probably close to 3 times a GoPro. And sometimes I'll be working on cars at work because I use my watch all the time to look at notifications while I'm pulling engines and doing other things. And one of the watch clasps they're sort of like quick releases, for no reason just comes off, and I'm like, oh. But I'm so hypersensitive to the weight of it on my wrist and the pressure of it. And it's the same with my GoPro. I haven't worn my GoPro on my mask now for probably 10 or so dives, only because of the fact that I've no longer got the mask that will have the GoPro mount. I need to get a gun mount, but it's you just, again, it's being aware of your surroundings and not sort of spending half an hour in the sea while you haven't got a float on you. Hi, Hayley.
Hello.
She's just come in to start cooking dinner.
Lucky for Sam.
Yeah. So, should we shoot the last question then?
Yeah,
That was the
no.
last question. I thought we'd done all three.
No, so I put an Instagram post out tonight saying that we're going live,
Ah, cool. Yeah, yeah.
and someone's just asked a quick. Well, it's not really a quick question, but we'll have a quick go at it, shall we? So it is. What pieces of kit are worth spending extra on, and which pieces could you spend less on?
Ben.
So I think I kind of wish that I'd spent more on my gun, actually, and got one that was kind of suitable for. So I've got an 80, sorry, I've got 75 and a 90. I kind of wish I'd spent the sum of both on something that fits in between that was perhaps a little bit more flexible than what I've got. One that you could power up for the things that you need and power down for not. We're going away.
Does that exist?
Yeah, so I saw Matt Shaw had this nice wooden carbon composite gun. I can't remember what it is, but I think it was it began with a C, Cantabrio or something like that. But something like that, I think, if I was starting now, I'd be investing in that. I think a lot of people do start with a really cheap gun, and that's fine because it kind of gets you into the sport. But it's one of those things that I don't know. Is it? I think it probably is one of those things that almost straight away you're like, well, I could have spent a little bit more. And it's something that does last a long time. Whereas some other things, like float lines or, whatever, they don't tend to last that long.
What would you have spent less on if you? Is there anything?
I think you guys would probably say the same, but it is worth spending a little bit extra so you don't have to pay more and buy once rather than pay less and buy twice.
Yeah, I took out a newbie the other day, as we said before, and obviously he's been like asking me a million and one questions about what kids buy.
Yeah.
So I think really, if they're going to spend money on kit, as you say, try and buy the best that you can afford at the time.
Yeah.
Because in the long run, you'll end up spending less money. Just depends how much money you have available at the time.
Of course.
But you don't need the best of everything, as we've said over and over. But I did suggest that he try and spend more money on a wetsuit than anything else. So I think that's definitely a wise investment if you're looking for longevity of a wetsuit. I think I'm on a different opinion with a gun. I think buy cheap guns to start and try as many other guns as you can while you use that cheap gun. And the reason for that is that I found that I've gone through a few various guns because you land up like, I don't know, you go on a course or you'll go with a new buddy or whatever, and you look at their gun or try it out. And then all of a sudden you're like, actually, I want to use that. So I'm going to go buy one of those. And then you might not get on with it or whatever else. So yeah, buy cheap and just try and just handle, shoot, whatever, anyone else's gun that you go out with. I'm sure if you went out with someone and said, listen, can I just take a shot at your gun? They would be more than happy. I don't see why not. And it gives you a good feel of what other brands are like and what other models are like and different lengths and et cetera, et cetera. So, and then eventually when you feel that you might be interested in a certain type or brand, then make that purchase. And again, if you're going to make that purchase, go big on it so that it's something that you keep for a long, long time. Fins, definitely buy plastic stock. Don't get into the whole, caught up in the whole, you need carbons from the offset. You don't. I had plastics for ages and ages until I snapped them and then eventually went over. So that's the other thing that newbies always ask, don't they, is where should I get plastic or carbons? Just plastic is fine from the beginning. Don't need anything more than that. I know some guys who've been dying for years and still use plastic ones. But yeah, I recently spent out on a float, but then I think that's a wise investment for me. So it just depends on what your circumstances are and where you're diving. So like if you're diving real tidal areas, then yeah, float's awesome. If you dive in competitions, you're 6 hours in the water. Again, a float like ours is awesome. But yeah, you don't need all the bells and whistles to start off anyway.
I think that's
What about
a
you?
good point. Actually, I was just gonna say, I think I bought lots of things rather than spent more money on less things. I think that's you get
Yeah,
excited, don't you? I bought one of those like drop weights that puts the you can drop by a lobster and you get the float up the top. I haven't
Oh, you
used it
have one?
once. Well, yeah, but I haven't really used it. I mean, I took it
Oh,
to a
right.
beach once, and I mean, it's got like a 20-meter line as well. I mean, I dive about 5 meters, so it's completely
I could
pointless.
have used one of those the other day for that bloody flounder.
Mate, come and borrow it. But yeah, I've got lots of little things like a lobster pole thing. It's
Yeah.
crap. Like I might as well just use my gun. But
Yeah.
I should have bought less of the little bits and spent more on the big things. That gun that I was looking at, just in case anybody was interested, is called the Cantabrico, and it's like a wooden carbon hybrid. Just looks really cool. I think it's like a good kind of you can get an 85 centimeter, which is quite a nice kind of size for our area.
Yeah. What about you, Anthony?
So I would kind of I would reverse the question a bit in that actually the gear I believe isn't actually where you should be spending the money. You should be spending the money in the courses first. I would say if you're a completely new spearo or you're looking to get into spearfishing, buy I don't want to say the budget range, but the beginner range of all spearfishing gear. So obviously if you're spearfishing in the UK, buy yourself a cheap 7mm suit or a 5mm if you're pretty decent with the cold water. Remembering that when you're beginning, you're going to be flapping around like a headless chicken, using way too much energy. So in a 5mm, you'll be perfectly fine. And like Rich says, plastic fins, cheap gun, cheap weight belt, a rubber weight belt. Again, they're 30, 40 quid, and my rubber weight belt will last me forever. If you buy a decent weight belt, it'll last you forever, and you'll never need to buy it again. Cheap gun, cheap suit, but get on a course. Mainly, I would say get on a freediving course first and spend the money on your knowledge. It's your knowledge that is the investment, because like we're all saying now, is all about the glory of hindsight. And actually what you're doing with the course is you're paying for somebody else's hindsight and their training and their research into what you're doing. So get on a course, be it a freediving course with the Freedive UK, Go Freediving, any of the people, Matt Hill, that will do freediving stuff. If you've got the money, go straight into a spearfishing course. They're very specific and they won't cover your freediving as much. And I personally disagree with it a little bit. Not disagree, but I just believe that the freediving course will always outweigh a spearfishing course. And yeah, flush yourself out with whatever you can afford for your budget spearfishing build. A spearfishing build is still going to set you back probably 500 or 600 quid with gun, suit, and all the paraphernalia, your float, your line, everything. You can easily spend 500 or 600 quid. On the other end of the scale, you can spend 3.5 grand on a flush, everything with every name you can possibly imagine, all the best of everything. But even with me, the biggest thing that I'm now going to invest in is a laminator, so that I have a laminate list of everything I go to my spearfishing dive with, and then make sure I've got everything when I get home. Because one of the things that I find that I'm spending a lot on is leaving masks in people's boats or leaving a snorkel on the beach. Now, a tenner, like you can go on Amazon. I can't find my mask and snorkel, even though I had it yesterday at the dive, and I put it in the car, put it in the shower. It's gone. God knows where it's gone, into the hole that is my house. But another tenner, another 40 quid on a mask and another snorkel. And again, with things like masks, you can go to a shop and try on a load, but until you're in the water, you don't know whether that mask is going to be good for you at depth. And whether, for example, it hits the bridge of your nose, whether it seals perfectly. If you're a man, if you've got a beard, if you've got a moustache, whether it seals right. So be prepared to go through 5 masks before you find the one that you'll then religiously buy. So in terms of spending, what would you spend more on and what would you spend less on? I'd say just always go, whatever you're doing, go for the budget build to begin with. Spend as little as you possibly can. Get spearfishing. Wait until you've done, 50, 80, 100 dives. Because by then, you'll be really comfortable in the water. You'll know what's pissing you off. And then you'll know, right, actually, my gun is just not happy. I'm just not happy with the gun, the way it's performing. I could really do with something that's a lot lighter. It's playing up with my tennis elbow or whatever. And then you can go and spend 700-800 quid on a wooden carbon gun. But yeah,
I feel like I have to be the bit contradictory with you, really. I feel like with the courses, my opinion would be don't do the free diving course first. And I feel the reason for that is because if they didn't do a free diving course first, then they might not necessarily push it too fast, too quick. So like they might not go too deep too quickly, or think like, you speak to some newbies and they haven't gone deeper than 5 meters in like 2 years. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. And I get like if you've done a free diving course, then yeah, you have the knowledge behind you to go do that. But then a lot of newbies don't have dive buddies. So that's an integral part of the sport, isn't it? Is finding like a group of friends that you can regularly dive with, which takes a while to do as well.
Yeah.
So
but
if you're going to be going deeper, you need that like support, don't you, in most of the time. You see where I'm coming from? I think it just depends on the individual and the circumstances. I
do and I don't, but I think with something like a free diving course, let's say, for example, for a weekend, and I'm going to plug one that is the Go Freediving. Emma Farrell, Go Freediving. She'll do your is it Raid 1 or AIDA? I'm pretty sure it's Raid.
Raid,
yeah, Raid 1, and it's 400 quid for the weekend at Vodster. And not only will you learn the full buddy system, you'll also know all of the signs that you're expecting to feel when you're getting close to a shallow water blackout. There are a lot of freedivers that are going to be going into the water that, they'll dive down to 5 meters. They might push it to 10, they might push it to 20, but they don't know, they haven't got the knowledge of or what to look for when things are going to go wrong. Or like, I remember, Rich, when I was with you and we were out in Tor Bay and we were watching a fresh new Spiro pushing as hard as fuck with his fins and his arms against the tide. And we sort of stood there waiting for him, and I'm still geared and I'm going, I'm probably going to go in and get him if he doesn't come out the water in like 5 minutes. With a sort of a freediving course putting you in the right direction of trying to understand what you're getting yourself into, or giving you that little bit of knowledge, I just think it's worth more than fucking any wetsuit. I mean, God, go in naked. Don't even go in with a gun. Just go in with knowledge and go and look at the fish first.
Yeah, I think the most valuable thing for me has been the clubs. I think that's been the most valuable, like 50 quid I've ever spent, to be honest. I don't know if you guys agree with that, but that's the best 50 quid I ever spent, was joining a club, joining the BSA, and just learning loads from people, getting new buddies, and yeah, that's been massive for me.
Yeah, see, I'd agree to the extent of the club gives you the opportunity to then socialize with the people within that club. There are, I've got my own quarrels with the amount of use I'm getting out of the money that we put into the club. But yeah, no, it's socializing. I mean, the free things that you can do is join all the Facebook pages, join like the spearfishing buddies, just basically go on Facebook and type in spearfishing in the groups, and you'll get loads of hits. Join every group you possibly can and ask questions, and you'll get called an idiot for asking stupid questions sometimes by people that are idiots themselves. But ask questions. Don't just go out by yourself without any pre-knowledge or any sort of precursor training, because you get yourself in trouble.
Cool. Then anything to add to the final remarks?
I would say I'm probably with Anthony on go and do a course. I think it is a really, for me, and like you say, maybe that's not for everybody, but for me, as much as I got lots of useful tips out of watching Dan Mann and JPK and all the others on YouTube, for me, going to the course with David Mellor did completely change things for me, not just in the education, which I think is really, really important, but also like technique. Like my duck dive got. I mean, I didn't know what a duck dive was really when I started spearfishing, and by the end of that course, well, it was a bit better. I mean, everybody knows it's still shit, but
it's much better now.
But you know what I mean? Like having someone who is a trained professional watch you for the sole purpose of helping you improve. I mean, when you guys come along, you're not watching really my technique. I mean, you might take the piss out of my technique sometimes, but you're not watching me to help me improve. You're watching me for my safety. You're watching me to see what fish I bring up or don't bring up.
We're just watching to take the piss.
but like David Mellor and obviously anybody that does those kind of things, they are trained professionals and they will help you. You will make progress because of that. I'm keen to get on another course soon. I was going to go and do that course with Emma, but decided that actually the start point spearfishing competition is more important to spend those days.
1, 2, 3, 4.
So yeah, lads, that was an epic episode again. Bit off subject on some points, but I love talking shit with you guys, so it's all good.
Yeah, I hope
I would like it. If they don't mind, if they do mind, you can email richard@gmail.com.
Yeah, I don't know who that's going to. So yeah, by this time next week, you guys will both be behind me again in points. And
I didn't realise we were having another. I was going to say I didn't realise we were having another session in the camper van.
And also by this time next week, we will have recorded our next episode. So the next one's going to be with Matt Newman and Tony Sykes again. So a revisit, but this time we're going to be doing it in the pub in Cornwall.
Cool.
So
oh shit,
that's going to be quite good.
Tony and Matt Newman, please listen carefully. Do not let Richard anywhere near the bar while he's recording.
You're allowed in the pub. I thought we made that a podcast rule.
No, we said I'm not allowed to get hammered on the podcast again. I got hammered once.
You're not allowed near alcohol, I think was what we said.
Nearly 10 episodes in, and I'm like,
it was
labelled the alcoholic.
I'm sure the court said within 150 meters of any alcohol. So yeah, Tony, Matt, it's on your heads if he destroys us. But, yes.
Yeah, I'm not editing that one. That's over to you, Rich.
Guys, after the amount of editing I had to do on that episode, I shall never be drinking on any podcast ever again.
Leave the drinking to me. Just send me all the alcohol. I'll make it rude and get us all the complaints.
So, that's going to be a good episode, though, with Tony and Matt. I mean, they're the two people that we've had like more requests from listeners about than anyone else. So, looking forward to doing that and revisiting them. There's so much more information to get out of the two of them as well. So, that's going to be good.
That'd be awesome. So, what are you guys up to this week?
Yeah, I'm just going to say, what's your guys' plans up until then?
Yeah, well, I'm hoping to pop down and see you at some point on your holidays in Cornwall. Gate crash one of your dives. Not quite sure when, but I've taken a few days off of work.
So not only is he being a sneaky little prawn and going on dives here, he now wants to come gate crash.
I swear you offered.
Yeah, I did offer, to be fair.
When are you recording the next week's podcast and where?
Thursday night, not sure on location yet, somewhere very close to the campsite, so we can kind of just get a taxi or one of us drives or something.
Well, I'm not sure because I'm pretty sure Wetherspoons have banned it, but if you go to a Wetherspoons and put on your Facebook and Instagram what table number you are, everybody could send you
Oh yeah.
fried eggs. So yeah, if you're listening, table number 34 at Wetherspoons in Newquay. No, don't do that because oh god, we're going to get banned from all the Wetherspoons. But I'm going up to the Go Freediving team.
Oh,
Yeah,
cool.
Lobster on Saturday for the day.
Nice.
Luckily, my neti pot has flushed out my nose. And yeah, hopefully my.
What's that? What's that for? Just deep water training, or?
So I haven't seen them since. Well, I haven't seen most of them since my course that I did for initially when I first started freediving in Tenerife. So I haven't seen them for nearly a year. And yeah, it's just trying to, before the sky trip, get used to going down to 20, 25 meters and just get comfy at depth. But also, I've never, other than a very shallow river, I've never done freshwater diving, which is going to be weird not having a mouthful of salt. So, yeah, and obviously the waiting that comes with it. But no, I'm looking forward to just getting a day diving around some airplane wrecks in some fresh water.
Yeah, it's pretty cool around there. Yeah.
Have you guys been?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
When did you go? How was it? What did you do?
You're asking now. I don't know. It's a few years ago, or a couple of years ago, maybe a couple of years ago. Just went for some deep water training. So I think it was 24 meters, something like that.
24.
24, I think. Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Just dived through the plane wrecks. Went to the boat on the far side of the reservoir with a clown or whatever it is attached to it on the deck. That's pretty creepy.
I was going to say, thank God I haven't got a phobia of clowns, just conger eels.
I think that boat sits at 24. I might be wrong. I'd have to double check. It was a long time ago that we went, but yeah. So went onto the deck of that boat, went a little bit below it. But yeah, it was really cool. Good experience. And I've said to you guys before, once you dive deep in a quarry, it almost gets your head through that barrier that you put up in terms of diving deeper. You become a bit more relaxed in the sea for some reason. So it's good to do it. Really is good to do it. I think I'm comfortable now around 15 meters in the sea. I don't think I'd push that really this year. I think I'd sit around that. Just feel comfortable.
How did you find diving saltwater versus freshwater? Is there a difference?
Oh, it's a huge difference. Yeah, massive difference.
Is that because the current or?
Yeah, all of it, like buoyancy, current, the calmness of it. So it was so much more calmer. Also, you're not hunting, are you? So your mind's not on that. You haven't got a spear gun. So when you're going to the bottom, I find that it was just more relaxing.
Able to focus.
Yeah, just taking in you go down, you look at the bubble blowers of the bombs, scuba divers, messing around with them. It was just more enjoyable in a different way. And I was just able to go that much deeper because I was more relaxed because I wasn't having to worry about getting run over by a boat or
you're getting bum raped by a seal.
Yeah, but I mean, there's so many factors in the ocean that play in part of your thought process, isn't there, when you're diving? So, being able to just fully relax and just float in one spot and not move plays a huge part in that.
Yeah,
being able to relax. I really enjoyed it. I highly recommend to anyone who is spearfishing and wants to learn to dive deeper, even if it's not ports, just go to a quarry and just dive. I mean, yeah, it's a different ball game, but it does help mentally, like with diving.
Yeah,
did you say you went there?
Yeah, so I did that course with David Murr. That was where the course was. And yeah, like Rich was saying, swam through a plane. I didn't think I was going to be able to do any of that kind of stuff beforehand. I thought, going into it, that plane is 10, 12 meters. There's no way I'm going to get anywhere close to that. For me, it was just safety and, a bit of duck diving, stuff like that. But felt really comfortable there. And I've done my longest breath hold dive there as well, just because I guess he's so calm. I think it helps having David Mell over your shoulder, kind of watching you as well.
The human fish.
Incredible guy. But just having that support there, where you feel you can, I guess push it a little bit more. in a safe environment if you just wouldn't push it like that in the sea, even with support. So yeah, it's definitely a great place to go. Am I right in saying though that you can't go there right now without someone who's qualified?
Correct. Yes. So with the, I believe with the Go Freediving guys, you need, if you want to go there, sort of, I want to say with them in inverted commas, if you want to get in, let's call it the back door through them, you and your buddy would both need to be qualified in at least Raid 1 and Raid 2, of which luckily I am. But yeah, we were looking at, I was obviously trying to get there with you. And unfortunately their insurance just doesn't cover somebody that isn't with an instructor that isn't qualified. So yeah, you Vobster, which is a quarry, I think in Bristol. I don't even know where I'm going.
Gloucestershire.
Gloucestershire. Shit, that's.
I think it is.
Oh my
isn't
god,
it?
I'm going to be driving along Aspay. But yeah,
I think it's Gloucestershire.
It's,
I might be thinking of the other one. There is a couple of quarries around.
Yeah, I thought it was Bristol Bathway, but
yeah, maybe the other one's Gloucestershire, but the other one does allow anybody to go in and dive, because they just class it as open water swimming. So the other one you don't have to be qualified. Although Vobster did change that rule recently. It never used to be like that. When I went, you could go as long as you were qualified level 2 at least, and I was in brackets. So
sure is.
You mean
sure is. Get him.
But my brother, to be fair, was like, I don't know, wherever it is. I said this before, level 3, 4. I can't remember wherever it is. So he was with me, so I wasn't worried about it. But the other quarries, you don't have to be. I think you can just go dive. So yeah, there's options.
Yeah. But you can always, as I say, you can always book a course with them. And yeah, learn all the knowledge that they've got. But no, I'm looking forward to Saturday. It'd just be nice to see everybody and get in the water without having to take a spear gun. And yeah, like you guys say, the last time was Tenerife, which was still in the sea. And when I was learning, we were diving a 10-meter line to begin with, and then a 15-meter. And the next line along, because there was 3 nines at once, was a 30-meter dive down to a wreck that you could see in this 40-meter fizz water.
Nice.
And it was, as a beginner, it was unsettling to say the least. But I haven't dove on a line since then. And just as another one, only because my MOT tester, the boss of the MOT tester, were having an argument, which is one for the listeners, and I've already done the Googlings anyway. Is it dove or dived?
Depends on the context. So past tense would be dove, and then present would be dive. I think.
Dived is still past tense.
Yeah, it is in a way, I suppose. It depends on the context.
Oh
Yeah.
God, are we really doing this?
You wait.
Jeez.
This will be the most feedback.
I thought my
we've got from
recording of
anything.
me in the car whispering on about what gear I brought was boring, but it's taking it to a whole new level. I think it might be time to wrap it up, lads.
My MOT was 45 minutes long, and 49 minutes were spent talking about dove and dived. So yeah. But no, it's been an awesome episode. Well, considering at the beginning of this, before we even went on, we were saying that this is just going to be a quick half an hour. It's now been, 4 recordings? So we're probably going to be an hour and a half.
Yeah, this is going to be a fun one to edit. Well, awesome, lads. Epic to catch up again. And the next time we catch up, I hope you two will be crying. So
Not that I've now got my new fishmonger's table that I need to christen with many fish. So no.
yeah, but freshwater fish don't count, mate.
When's your Cornwall recording?
Thursday.
Right, I'm coming to Cornwall on Thursday then. Right,
I think Ben is as well. So jump in, man.
Yeah,
well, Ben, we need to message. We need to get down to Cornwall on Thursday and go gate crash Richard's episode.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, mate. If you can get a day off, that sounds awesome. We can have a dive.
When you guys come down, I can show you my gilt head bream.
Tony, if he catches a gill cream, we're going to have words. Awesome. Well, thank you very much, guys. It's been brilliant.
Cheers, lads.
And again, listeners, thank you very much for listening in. And if you've got any questions or anything you'd like to know, anything you want us to ask everybody at the pub, including which is the best ale on tap at the night, then email thespirohangout@gmail.com. Is that the one?
Yep.
Yeah, thespirohangout@gmail.com, or message us through the Facebook, the Instagram, all the usual platforms. And we'll ask Matt and Tony next week. But thank you very much, and cheers, Ben. Cheers, Rich. We'll speak to you next week.
Cheers, guys.
Later. Cheers.
Evening, boys.
Wanna hear you go.